I'd get a handshake and the Hollywood hump, as you said the other week.
And that's just being toxic.
The world's first toxic claymation podcast.
Welcome to the podcast. The people are calling in a triumph. We hope you like the show.
Bonjour, Tanner.
Bonjour, Simon.
It's so good to be resurrected back in the claymation space. Nobody likes liminal space.
It feels like going to sleep and waking up in the morning, and boy, is it a crisp one out there, folks.
Has got chilly. Welcome back, everyone listening to the podcast people are calling a triumph, with some people saying this podcast has saved their lives. This podcast made me learn things about mental health I've never even thought of before. We're happy to have you back, and hopefully the audio is slightly improved this episode, and we won't be as high on legal Delta 9 gummies as we were last week.
I, for one, am very grateful to no longer be flying high on Delta 9.
That was our first ever foray into the world of legal psychoactive substances, and I think it's safe to say it will be our last. Let's just start by saying how we're each doing, as this is first and foremost a mental health podcast. Tana, how are you doing? Where you at? What's challenging you? What's making your soul sing? Don't bring up Star Wars. Just get through the question. Good, clean.
This week we saw the Eras tour at Broovies in Salt Lake.
Okay, it's actually funny. We haven't really even debriefed since we watched the Eras tour, and this is why. I've almost been scared to ask you, because I'm like, if Tanner is anything less than just so over the moon about it, or so, I'm just going to be devastated if you're too neutral about it. So I've actually avoided asking you what you thought. I mean, I know you're a man who respects production and artistry of all kinds, so I don't imagine you have a negative opinion, but yeah, how was it for you?
It was a really, really sweet time. I'm always impressed by Taylor Swift's artistry and her ability to collaborate. Like, she has made such a brand for herself, but you can't pull off a show like that without huge amounts of people working together with that common vision. And she integrates the talents of so many people, and I think that's part of her artistry. And
it's so funny, isn't it? Because I feel like a lot of people will kind of be like, oh, do you think that she did all that herself? Or like, I remember growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, it was a big deal whether pop stars wrote their own songs, as if just like their, skills as performers are not worth something alone. Like, some of the best songwriters are not performers. That's just the way it goes. But yeah, like all good artists are good collaborators. And like you said, Taylor Swift was able to collaborate so well. You'd have to be like, you can't. Well, how do you think Kanye West's doing his shows though? Because he's notoriously hard to work with, but doesn't he have quite cool shows?
Well, nothing brings people together like money.
That is so true, Tanner. And dare I say, that's what's brought us to this channel time and time again.
Oh yeah, chasing the all-powerful dollar.
The all-powerful aspirational goal of earning minimum wage on YouTube. Okay, so you love the Eras tour. That brings me into my next question. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, you obviously have a lot of thoughts. Spill them here in the Clayverse.
I don't know enough about him. He plays football?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's cool. He's probably really fit. And if she's dating him at this point in the game, I want to assume like she has enough experience that's good for her. Like, I don't want to assume just because he like plays football, he's not like a cool guy or something. I really don't know enough about him.
Totally. Yeah. I'm glad you have a base amount of awareness of that situation going on.
Can I talk about the highlights and the low points?
Of the Eras tour?
Yeah.
Or of you in your life?
The Eras tour.
Okay.
High point is, well, because it's at Broovies, so you can drink in the theater. Did
you hear the people in the row behind us? I think they were probably Mormon, but the girl sitting behind us at one point after the songs, we were all clapping and she was like, "You're awesome, Taylor!" And I was like, "I love you, I would die for you. You're my favorite person in this city."
I think we allowed it to be, a more impassioned experience. You first and foremost, of course.
Yes, it is just truly incredible what 3 drinks can do to my willingness to sing along to every single word in a situation like that, where otherwise I'm kind of almost self-righteously in favor of people not making any kind of ruckus during a movie. I know this was a special kind of...
Yeah, you discard all your public loudness rules.
I just don't think people should get together and chant or sing or clap. That's just... That's a value God has instilled in me. And I was proven right because I tested it by joining a cult, pushed that innate discomfort to its limit, got past it. What did I discover? It was all in the service of Hosanna, Hosanna to the Lord. That little chant they do in the Mormon temple. Not good.
You're going to have to be more specific.
Oh, I just remember when we were at Brigham Young University, Idaho, and they dedicated a new building and everyone like whipped out their white handkerchiefs and in like the most dead-eyed voice imaginable was like, Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna to the Lord, or whatever it is. And I was chilled to my bones. I was like, I didn't know we did stuff like this. And I'm like, I'm in this country now at this school and now you whip out the white handkerchiefs. Someone should have brought up the white handkerchiefs so much earlier on for me personally.
It was just so robotic and I was like, are we actually happy about this? Like, what is this like reverent... This is like the one time we're supposed to have any kind of celebration or enthusiasm and it's just everybody just like so just like...
Yeah. Yep. An homage to happiness.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, this doesn't feel like the spirit of the thing.
It's giving LaCroix.
As I currently sip from a LaCroix. LaCroix is delicious. And, you know, I don't mean to yuck anyone's yum. If waving a handkerchief and shouting things with other people does it for you, have fun. I'm just going to do some other things.
I think you should bleep out the name of the sparkling water brand you just mentioned, because we don't do any free brand deals on this Claymation channel podcast.
Yeah, well, it'll be like sponsored seltzer. Made with real minerals like magnesium and plutonium.
Do you have anything else to say about the Eras Tour or Taylor Swift in general?
Oh, the other really sweet part is when that really sweet song, and you said, I cried so much at this song when my grandma died. And that just like really touched me, and it reminded me of, I'm sorry for always going deep in the Claymation podcast, but
I'm starting to think that the Clayverse actually facilitates a kind of depth never before seen in the podcasting space.
Maybe that's why our higher selves designed us, was so that they could bring to light the
yeah, that
to
final...
self-express in a higher form.
Don't lose your point, but I heard a TikTok recently that said the opposite of being emotionally dysregulated is not feeling neutral, it's self-expression, and that hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah, I think there's something to that. But anyway, you had mentioned your grandma, and it was like a really, really beautiful song, and I started crying, and I was thinking about just like how art really connects us in a way that is so individual and yet so communal, because it's so personal to her and she's exteriorized it, that it's become so personal to you and connects you and your grandma in this timeless way. And then I started crying. You ever have many funerals for people in your head?
Yep.
And I was like, oh my God, if God forbid Samantha ever dies, this song is gonna break my heart.
As you look over to see me pounding my full vodka soda. Like, there's no way I'm outliving you. Though I am a bit younger.
No, I'll probably go first.
No, I actually genuinely do think you have the energy of someone who's going to live till 96. I really do believe that about you.
As long as my brain stays intact.
Yeah.
And that's that on aging.
On aging.
So that was a beautiful part, and I was like, thank God that Taylor Swift is doing her thing and creating that for people, and I feel like it gave me an insight into who you are. Aww. Since your life is like, is being scored by Taylor Swift music on a regular basis, and how so many of my memories of you are associated with that. And
aww, Sounds like your reaction was everything I hoped and dreamed it would be.
Yeah, it was really sweet. But then it did take a turn when I was a few beers deep. And she did one of her like earlier songs, and it like took me back to a weird place when I was just around people that I didn't like really vibe with, and I was just like so trapped in this. And then I was just kind of like, ooh, this makes me feel like so disconnected from like myself. And then I went home and I read through my childhood journal, and I was like, wow, I have been the same person since 2 years old.
Oh, yeah, it is good to recognize the threads that sort of run through you your whole life. The invisible string, if you will, as Taylor Swift said.
Yeah, there's invisible strings to these claymation puppets, aren't there?
Yeah, make your own conceptual prison out of clay, or the world will put you in one, and it won't give you your dream boobs.
And your gift to the world will be your struggle and overcoming of it. In the form of the Claymation podcast.
All right, well, another insight I've had lately, in addition to the opposite of emotional dysregulation is self-expression, is, again, this might sound really obvious. You know, I feel like you reach a certain point with like healing and mental health and just your relationship with yourself where it's just the same lessons over and over again, repackaged in slightly different ways with like different aspects of the overall lesson being highlighted depending on whatever like your current situation is. Anyway, latest thing I've been thinking about is I make myself cringe just simply so much. And this is a really hard thing for me to deal with because it means I'm just going through life 10 times a day having like a visceral reaction, usually with like an audible sound and like a full body clench over something I might have said 10 years ago. It might have been last week. It might have been 10 years ago. But just that process is just constantly happening in me. Insight I've been finding helpful lately is, dun-dun-dun-dun, it's not that deep. Expect to be cringe. And then when the cringe happens, it's no big deal, or it's not as bad. Instead of having, this might sound so obvious, but to me it's a bit of a revelation. Instead of having this expectation that I should, it's like in my mind to be normal means to not be cringe, to not ever be cringe or say anything embarrassing, do anything embarrassing. But if for some reason, if I just switch my mindset over to you will be cringe sometimes, it makes the cringes a little bit easier to bear. Thoughts, comments, questions?
I love that. Lean into the cringe, surrender to the cringe.
Yeah. The thing about it is, yeah, we're all cringe, surrender to the cringe, blah, blah. But it is also true that some archetypes of people do just read as more cringe than others in our society. So even though everyone feels like they're in the same struggle, maybe, I don't know if every single person thinks about how cringe they are. Let us know in the comments, please. But again, this is just going back to my theory that you are just fundamentally not as embarrassing as me. Like I can't explain it. I just think it's archetypal and also probably a bit sexist.
How do you mean?
Just some people are more cringe, like just their general presentation, which they did not choose, is a bit more cringe than others.
Why do you think you're cringe? I
mean, probably trauma, but also just like, I don't know, just sort of, oh God, I can't unpack this right now in the Clayverse. I guess I just feel like, I don't know what, it's the Taylor Swift lyric of like feeling like the monster on the hill. Like I just always feel like I'm like bumbling and like not quite like easing into the same energy as others. Or honestly, it's probably just because I have a very dysregulated nervous system in certain social situations. Oh God, can we move on from this? It's too mental health. I want to rebrand. I don't want to be a mental health podcast. I want to be a Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce podcast. Starting a podcast is not all fun and games, and it's not as easy as you think.
It's not, and it's, I say we burn mental health to the ground, and so that we can rise from the ashes again, fresh phoenix flamers, and new form, which is the Claymation podcast goes west.
Toxic.
Same thing.
I did hear the other day that toxic is the new non-toxic, and that if you're not toxic, you're not cool. We're on very different sides of TikTok.
I'm on TikTok sick.
Tox talk.
What else has been going on this week, these days.
Well, I did go to a party the other day where I was dressed as a very last-minute budget Taylor Swift that really bordered more on a Clueless kind of costume than Taylor Swift, but I did my best. I show up to the party. There is the best Taylor Swift I've ever seen at this party. She's wearing like the Vigilante shit Eras Tour blue sequined leotard and like the amazing tights that just make everyone's legs look amazing. She had the sparkly blue boots, the best, most Taylor Swift curled hair I've ever seen. And as soon as I walked in, I was like, shit, I've made a huge mistake. Then Tana, it got worse. It got a lot worse. Unbeknownst to me, she was a dance teacher. So she starts dancing and I'm like, oh my God, she's the best dancer I've ever seen. And then it just kind of declined from there downhill. She looked so good and so like Taylor Swift. I was ill with envy, sick. I knew I wasn't going to be able to compete for one single second. I was like, I need to go home immediately.
You were Taylor and I'd be Britney and go full toxic and grab her by the elbow and be like, there's a new Taylor in town.
Normally I would obviously try befriending the enemy, but this was just a situation where I was too intimidated to even approach her.
No, I'm talking absolutely bury her. When she sees you, I knew you were trouble when you walked in. Just like rings in her head. This is the Toxic Claymation podcast.
We're taking down every Taylor Swift who's better than me at being Taylor Swift.
Until the last girl boss herself, Taylor Swift, the OT. And then she's like, you want to know my secret? There were 100 Taylor Swifts before me.
Seriously though, how else is she doing a 3-hour tour for like 200 days, or I don't even know how many days it was on end, with no sick days? It surely, the minimum I could imagine her being on is Adderall. But I'm like, how is she doing that? It's got to be Adderall. Surely it's Adderall. Can Demois please find out what the deal is? Is she really doing it au naturel? Because if so, fuck Andrew Huberman. I'm so uninterested. I just need Taylor Swift's routine. Hell, I'll do anything that she tells me to do. Did you see that Mark Zuckerberg went on, I haven't watched it yet, but he's on this week's Andrew Huberman podcast?
Mark Zuckerberg. Oh yeah, I did glimpse that.
Yeah, not really anything to report there as we each haven't seen the episode, but your phone screen is still Mark Zuckerberg, so.
No, it's actually not. It's the painting, the mountain landscape painting that I did recently.
Oh, yeah, that might work better at getting you off your phone than Mark Zuckerberg, because it will just be like, you remember what's out there, Tana?
Yeah.
Instead of creating a jarring image that you then are seeking compensatory dopamine from via your phone, which seems to be what happened with the Mark Zuckerberg screensaver, as I don't think your Twitter addiction got any better while it was there.
You know, I gotta say, I would love to see the data because I don't know that it's improved since. I'm still on my phone constantly. I don't need anyone else. I'm on my phone.
It's so good. Until it's not, which is most of the time too. But we have been watching the Great British Bake Off together, and that has been a beautiful experience for me. I feel like you're learning a lot about my culture.
Definitely. And I like to feel like I'm learning about baking. I'm like, oh yeah, you just add a little of that and then you prove it. And then
I would never underprove anything. If I was on the Great British Bake Off, I would never be so fucking rookie as to underprove something. Or overprove it. I wouldn't dare. And I would make sure that not only did it look good, but it tasted good too.
If Paul Hollywood was like, it's severely underproven, I'd be like, I don't have to prove myself to anyone, not to you, not to even God, Paul Hollywood.
I'd get a handshake and the Hollywood hump, as you said the other week.
And that's just being toxic.
The world's first toxic claymation podcast. That feels so much more sensible, I think, for us as a branding decision. You know how they say you have to invent your own category so then you can be at the top of it? Did you know that they're saying that? That's something they're saying.
They are saying that.
Invent your own category and then you can be the best in that category.
I love it. Yep, that's it. We found it.
My favorite piece of media I've ingested today is Trump comparing himself to Nelson Mandela as he addressed his legal issues in a speech at his latest campaign rally. I hear stuff about that like Trump and I'm like, yes, King, so important to self-validate. Like aspirational levels of confidence. We all need a bit more of it.
Self-help king.
He does fly close to the sun, but who among us doesn't fly too close to the sun, be it with Delta 9 gummies or delusions of grandeur?
He girl bossed a little too hard, and can we fault him for that? That's the American dream.
Truly.
Yeah, it's been fun or interesting to watch that. I saw his lawyer give a teary apology to the court and to the American people today.
Teary?
Yeah.
Like apologetically, like, sorry, I defended this man?
Yeah. Basically being like, I went in with good faith that, thinking we should investigate and do that legally. And, that deserves investigation. And if I had known what I know now, I would have never gone into that investigation. But now I know, and it's too late.
Wow.
Yep. And Trump was like, she's never been my lawyer, after tweeting
brutal
2 years ago, welcome my new lawyer.
She's the least my lawyer of anyone on the planet.
We love some good reality TV, and nobody does it better than Donnie J. Donnie Clay.
It's so sad we probably won't ever get any more Donald Trump reality TV, because truly that's what he was born to do. It's insane that we let him deviate from that, because he is the most perfect reality TV star.
Well, he kind of is in the this meta-com way.
He's too good at reality TV, so instead he had to be the president, the ultimate reality TV role. Oh my God.
No, totally.
Whew.
It's all eyes on me. Let's do this. Just more and more power. Being toxic sucks, man.
What do you think your most toxic trait is?
My most toxic trait?
Other than being unwilling to talk to your friends on the phone or via FaceTime, except when they start a mental health claymation pod to get you to do it with them.
Well, friends that play together stay together, and friends that clay together even more so.
Friends that clay together eventually get so rich off of their podcast that it results in a huge friendship breakup. We each have to hire lawyers. You're claiming that lawyer was never your lawyer. I don't really know where I'm going with this.
But it was all a huge reality TV and publicity stunt to profit off the drama of a giant friend breakup after the world's huge success, the Claymation podcast.
The easiest, most obvious path to success.
The Japanese I think it's Japanese concept of the ikigai, where it's your interests, what you enjoy, what the world needs, blah, blah, blah. There's a few things. And it's the intersection is the ikigai, and it's Claymation podcast. Yep.
There was a massive vacuum that needed to be filled, and we were the two people toxic and delusional enough to do it.
Crusaders.
Yes, pioneers of the toxic podcast genre. Just the audacity to think that people will just listen to you just chat and shoot the shit. But then that's what I listen to, is friends chatting and shooting the shit. And sometimes, Tanner, 20% of the time you say the funniest thing I've ever heard.
That's less than 30, so.
I know. You said 30 on the pod last week, so it's I'm going to say 20 just to roast him.
Little callback.
Just warming up my comedy skills for our overnight success podcast. You were about to tell us your most toxic trait. We never got there.
My most toxic trait, I don't know if it's the most toxic, but I have the delusional white boy syndrome of truly believing in my heart that I could be a successful rapper.
You could be a successful rapper if you wanted. No, I totally get what you're saying, and I think it's beautiful that you have that kind of wherewithal to be analyzing your archetypes, all that stuff. But I think you are one of the minuscule percentage of people that actually is justified in feeling that they could be a successful rapper.
And when I'm feeling toxic and angry, I write a devastating rap in my notes app that I do nothing with.
That's so cool, Tan. And I'm jealous. I write the worst songs on my guitar that I also do nothing with.
The guitar ones I'll at least, throw into GarageBand or something.
Oh, I bet you will. You sick fuck. You absolute sicko.
The raps, I'm like, that nobody needs to hear this. Until now on the Toxic Claymation podcast, where we're doing roast raps.
Never quite got into rapping. Feels like something I would have had to have jumped on more as a younger person with more ability to focus before the internet had rotted my brain and words became hard and memories faint and even what plain existence I'm living on right now becoming ambiguous.
I think there's some like hip hop, R&B adjacent rap that you might like more, or like lo-fi kind of vibes,
So
where the
true.
ambiance is a big part of it as well.
And honestly, when Ed Sheeran was like, they say I'm up and coming like I'm fucking in an elevator. I mean, we all lost our minds when we heard that. We were like, yes, this white man is allowed to rap because they say he's up and coming like he's fucking in an elevator. Genius. Now, his appeal has kind of faded and it is quite hard to listen to Ed Sheeran. But I really respect what he did for the white rap community.
The British white rap community.
No less. No less, Tanner. We haven't seen that kind of success since Blazing Squad in 2001.
If I ever saw Ed Sheeran, I'd be like, I love your raps, man.
You're my favorite rapper, honestly.
Tupac's ghost strangles me to death. Oh, what was your most toxic trait?
Oof, ugh, ah. I honestly do think my most toxic trait is psychoanalyzing people within an inch of their lives, unsolicited. Sometimes to them. Okay, I know it, I see it, it's a problem. I'm fully conscious of it. It's just apparently so wired into my neurological patterns that this is a doozy to undo, which is as painful for me as it is for everyone who's the recipient of it. Trust me.
Cut to me getting punched in the face by a bully, and I'm like, don't you understand the psychological phenomenon of projection?
Yeah. Yes, that's my most toxic trait. What about you guys? That is a comment I would love to have you leave on this video. Number one, because engagement is everything in the Clayverse. In the regular world, yes, but very much more so even in the Clayverse. What should we talk about next? It actually makes me really sad to think that I might never become friends with an elephant or like see one potentially.
Wait, have you never like seen one even at the circus or the zoo?
You
mean like actually like touch one and be like, hi, I love you as a person, and it'll be like, I accept you as a person, I will remember you for my whole life.
I may have seen an elephant at a zoo in my life. I just can't, like, if I have, then at the time I wasn't like tuned in enough to like what an elephant is like for it to be like particularly meaningful. I feel like when I was a kid, like I'd see all kinds of animals at the zoo, but I had no like real relationship with them. They really were just like a little spectacle that was like vaguely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I really think I could be a good friend to an elephant. But also, who am I kidding? Why would those guys want me? They have an emotional bandwidth even better than us, don't they? Like they form, as I know it, like elephants and whales are at the very least on par with humans in terms of how bonded they are to each other. And
yeah, and they'll stomp you to death if they see you after you've messed with one of them.
oh, I love that.
Even if years later, and if you killed one of them, well, then they will kill you, and then they will wreck your funeral. That's just being toxic.
And that's on being toxic, baby. It's fine when the elephants do it. Okay, did we ever find out what happened with all the whales that were sinking yachts? Because I'd like an update on that. Like, are they still going strong? Do they need any supplies? Where can we donate to help the whales in their efforts?
I think they've unionized, so that's nice.
So is it going to keep happening, do you think, that they'll take down more yachts?
Oh, dear, maybe. Oof. You know, it's illegal to try to communicate with whales and dolphins.
What?
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me right now?
I mean, there could be a sensible reason for that. Like, people will go out there and be, like, really belligerent toward them and, like, produce sounds thinking that they're like communicating that really actually aggravate them and increase the risk of, danger. I don't want to be like conspiratorial, but it also could be because the government is afraid that we will psychically connect with them.
I find it highly unlikely that the US government, no, there is no way that in that one single instance, suddenly the US government is all for animal rights. Like, no fucking way. The things that are legal in this country in terms of animal rights, like that would just be completely out of whack with the US's general approach to animal rights. So I would be surprised if it wasn't because the whales and the dolphins, I don't know, clearly they're the key to getting out of here. The US government knows something about what the whales and the dolphins can do for us. They are the banned books of the ocean, and we need to get in touch. And we are not suggesting that you try and communicate with dolphins or whales, but please get in touch if you have anything you can tell us about that, teach us about.
If you have any intel.
Yeah, seriously, really do want to be at the forefront of that one. Don't want to be left behind.
Did you watch that documentary about the woman and the research team that built this 3-story aquarium for a dolphin to live so that they could research it and try to like communicate with it?
Wow, no, what happened?
Well, she made the first mistake of a researcher. Don't fall in love with your patient.
Wait, I think I did see this. Didn't they have like a sexual please tell me I'm wrong. I swear I saw something about them having like an inappropriate relationship.
So she's like, we loved each other and we were intimate, but it's like it's not, I don't think it's quite in the way of like she went out of her way to pleasure it. Oh my God, this is getting so toxic on the Claymation podcast.
But I get what you're saying.
But she was like, he was so aggravated about having he was just like horny and just needed to like do that to complete the process so they could go on with the other stuff.
Oh God.
And she's like, so it was just like easier to just like let him do his thing real quick and then move on. And I'm like, oh.
Do his thing how? Do his thing how? Seriously. I want to know, but I don't want to know.
Dolphins are notoriously horny creatures.
Is this a boy dolphin?
Yes.
Like, they were having sex. Is that what you're trying to fucking tell me right now?
Oh my God, I can't believe we've gotten here.
I'm so sorry to everyone listening. This is fucked up, and we encourage you to leave your dislike of this in the comments.
Okay, to be technical, he would just hump her to completion. Yeah, and then they could move on with the little communication games, but it's hard to tell. Was it actually learning to communicate, or was it just figuring out the rules of the game to get a certain reward, and it's not really processing as in the same like linguistic way we associate with that or think about in that way?
Well, yeah, I imagine that a dolphin's brain will be like fundamentally different in certain ways, but it also does seem like they are quite human-like in a lot of their ways that they are emotional. So it doesn't seem that crazy to think that they could be, what is like language and communication anyway, but learning the rules of a game in order to get a reward you want. At
the end of the day, it's all language all the way down. That is to say, reality is perceived through like metaphor, essentially, code, a symbolic representation of something else. What we're seeing isn't what actually is. It's just how our brain is computing it. It is a symbol, and then language is a word abstraction of that. I've been reading Nietzsche lately.
It shows. And yet our podcast is still bad.
Worse even.
Despite Tanner's clearly firm grasp on language.
I'm just saying the Matrix is real, and this is it. Hi, welcome. The Claytrix. We've got finances. We've got sports boyfriends.
Psychology, philosophy.
Philosophy's getting the boot. We actually don't endorse thinking, philosophizing of any kind. We
are going thoughtless by 2024.
Yep.
This podcast, if we had it our way, would already just be a silent sermon where you would just look into our sometimes blinking clay eyes and you would wait for us to finish. And then we'd get back to learning how to communicate with each other.
And if you had what it took, honestly, you would be enlightened at the sight.
Meow.
How are the cats doing?
To go to the vet in 2 weeks. So I'm already spiraling about that, but...
Boy, they hate that.
Sometimes you just gotta put your cat through hell so that you can get scammed by the vet. Honestly, I really struggle with industries like the vet. it's just, you just don't, it's like with dentists, you just don't really know if you're getting scammed, because like the whole point is that this is a highly specialized field that the average person can't really make executive decisions on. But then you go to the vet and they're like, yeah, we could do a leukemia test, or we could do this, and I'm like, I don't know if we should do a leukemia test or a urinary. Like, you need to tell me, and I need you to be really fucking confident about it, because right now you're just like selling me these various $1,000 options, but it's because they don't want to take any accountability. They're just like, well, this is, you know. I'm like, just make a recommendation, please. It's tough. It's really tough.
You know, the 3 doctors you got to be wary of: pet doctors, tooth doctors, and car doctors.
And eye doctors, because I've had 2 eye doctors in my life, and they've both been a little bit creepy in complimenting my eyes.
Wow, it sure is a treat looking into these eyes. Good thing my vision is perfect.
Honestly, that's kind of the energy. And I'm like, all right, Ron, I get that you're in the eye industry, and I do have beautiful eyes. I get told that a lot. I can't say the same about you, so I get that you're fawning, but let's just be professional and move forward with this. I'd like to get out of here, please. Your family photos on the wall are making me uncomfortable.
Well, I never get told that. The first girl I ever had a crush on told me my eyes were the color of poop.
That's beautiful when you think about it. I mean, as you discussed last week on the pod with anuses, sometimes saying that your eyes look like poop is saying that your eyes are the most beautiful thing in the known universe.
Oh, what? It's just like fertilizing my soul so that it can grow into a lush garden? Is that what you're telling me? Oh, yeah, I'm so offended. Ha ha ha. Glad we're not dating.
Yeah, well said, Tan. Really well said. And I do think you have eyes the color of poo.
Well, that means you have a healthy stool. Congrats.
Tana, did you see that people the other day did a full marathon around the 9th and 9th whale? Like, they just ran around the whale, but they ran around the whale for 26 miles. Is that how long a marathon is?
Crazy. That is so whale coded. It's perfect.
So whale core, yeah. The neuroticism of it all. Oof.
Yeah. Oh, that would drive me crazy. That it's like a mental feat almost more than a physical one.
Yeah. Like, maybe they run marathons all the time, so it wasn't a huge deal, but that just feels like a really bad way to do a marathon.
I feel like I would actually get dizzy.
Yeah,
maybe it's bigger than I'm thinking of, but it feels like
it's a bit bigger than. Yeah, no, completely agree with you. But it just feels like it'd be like too much of that whoosh whoosh, you know? Too whoosh whoosh, yeah, exactly. But it is committing to the bit in a way that obviously is very impressive, and maybe you get some extra special committing to the bit chemicals that help you get round, I think. Yeah, and you throw on your favorite claymation podcast. Yeah, just pound that pavement, Yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, I guess, I run on the elliptical. You always you call it running, but isn't the elliptical a specific motion that isn't running? Ellipticizing? I guess I've just never thought of the elliptical as running. Prancing? I think it's more prancing than running. I love the boundiness of it. Every time I'm I look so silly. Everyone looks silly because it's not running. It really Everyone isn't. On an elliptical looks like they are actively playing Imagine Dragons on Top of the World in their ears in that moment. That's the exact energy. Maybe that's because when I used to go on the elliptical, that's the kind of stuff I would listen to. But I do that because it's better for my knees. Although, I'd feel cooler on a treadmill. Yeah. I should go on the elliptical this week. You've been inspiring me to get back on the elliptical, to just hop back on. Today I went on a little walk instead of going to the gym because it's delightful outside. It really is. It's so gorgeous. I need to go on a walk today. I did leave the house to go to one appointment yesterday, but I did not go on any walks, and that makes me feel weird in my brain. I'm gonna have to go as soon as we end this pod. It's dark so early now. Open the gates and seize the clay. Seize the clay, yeah. Do we close on that, or? Yeah, let's go seize the clay. Let's go seize the clay. If you guys have any questions you want us to answer here in the Clayverse, the Clayverse is its own kind of truth serum, so we'll answer them. All right, thanks for watching. We love you so much. Bye.